We all know how big of an impact The Last of Us Part 2 has been for many disabled players, including myself. That game changed my life and career in a way I had never thought possible. Now that it's been remastered for the PS5 and with some new modes, is it still the definitive accessible experience? Let's find out. I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and I play video games. To find out what it is I can see and how I play games, click here or click the link in the description down below. While you're there, click the like and subscribe buttons to keep growing this channel. Also, if you want to support me financially so I can keep doing more content, join my Patreon at patreon.com/SteveSaylor. All right, before I begin, I have to talk about a few things first. I won't be reviewing all the accessibility in The Last of Us Part 2, only because I did review it back in 2020 when it was first released. If you haven't seen it, click here to watch it. I will cover only the additional modes and features in the remastered edition of this game in this review. Also, as a PSA, if you are upgrading to the PS5 version of the game and have a save from your PS4, you must import your save in story mode first, so your accessibility settings will transfer over. You can't just download the save from the cloud or manually transfer the save from your PS4 to your PS5. The settings will be set to default until you import a game save. Then all their settings should work just fine. All right, let's jump right into it. The game still plays like it did before with its 60+ accessibility options, but with the added features that were introduced in The Last of Us Part 1 remake, such as cinematic descriptions and dialogue haptics. While the audio descriptions for the cinematics don't cover the specific in-game cinematics, all main story cinematics are audio described and work quite well. The dialogue haptics from Part 1 is here too, with the ability to use the DualSense haptics to subtly vibrate whenever a character is talking, so a deaf or hard of hearing player can feel how fast or slow a character is saying each word, and the severity of that vibration will go up or down depending on whether the character is shouting or speaking softly. Those two features weren't in the original launch of Part 2, so I'm glad it's now being added with Part 2 remastered, so it keeps in parity with Part 1 remake. Other than that, and the added use of the DualSense haptics and the adaptive triggers, the game plays the same way for disabled players as it did back in 2020. Because honestly, I think Naughty Dog just said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's new in Remastered that I was curious to try was the Lost Levels and No Return, Naughty Dog's version of a Last of Us roguelike mode. First, let's talk Lost Levels. These are the equivalent of deleted scenes from movies. The game has 3 deleted levels that were worked on but months away from finishing before Naughty Dog decided to stop working on them because they didn't fit with the flow of the story or fit within the gameplay. These levels are not fully finished and have missing dialogue, missing textures, but are still playable. What's cool is that Neil Druckmann actually introduces the scene first, but then in the level you can walk up to floating dialogue icons and listen to developers of the game giving a commentary of what they were trying to do with the level, why it ultimately didn't work for the game, and why it was cut. For the most part, 2 of the 3 levels are accessible as they are more of a level on rails and there's not really a lot of terms of exploration. Even when you are near the speech bubbles, the triangle button audio cue will play to let a blind player know a developer's commentary is nearby and interactable. The only level that is not the best accessible experience is the first level in Jackson. In this level, you are going to different areas just outside the party that you see in the flashbacks in the main story. You can play little mini games such as throwing a ball to knock down bottles, swinging a hammer to test your strength, playing a game with the kids where Ellie pretends to be a clicker and tries to catch the kids. They are fun to try out, but unfortunately because there are missing lines of dialogue, a blind player will miss out some of Ellie's intimate moments with folks in the town. There are subtitles of those conversations happening, just no audio. Also, the navigational assistance in this level takes you right to the door to the barn where the party is happening, ending the level. So for blind players, you might need to explore a bit more and not necessarily fully rely on the navigational assistance in this level. And there are going to be some missing parts of this level that you may not understand because of the missing audio dialogue. But don't worry, this area is not huge. It is a little bit more self-contained and is not as big as the Seattle open map. So being able to navigate will be relatively simpler than just walking around Seattle was in the main story. Next up, let's talk about No Return, Naughty Dog's roguelike mode. This version is actually different if you played God of War's Ragnarok's recent Valhalla roguelike DLC. It has similar gameplay, but there is no story attached to The Last of Us as compared to God of War. But that doesn't mean No Return is not as fun. It honestly reminded me how good the combat of The Last of Us is and how much fun it can be. You choose a character from the game before each run, and then each character has their own traits and starting weapons. You then are taken to a home base that you will go in between each combat encounter, where you can upgrade your weapons at a workbench, buy randomized weapons, ammo, and upgrades at a locker, and then choose your next combat encounter. Each combat encounter is random, but there are times when you can pick a path of which encounter you want to do. Once you've successfully made it through multiple encounters, you will then face a final boss to finish a full run. The game also has challenges you can complete to unlock new combat encounters, new characters, modifications to the encounters, and more. There are local and online leaderboards where you can see how you compare to your friends and other players from around the world. Honestly, as you keep playing, the more fun No Return becomes. When it comes to the accessibility of No Return, it honestly is amazingly great. If you're used to the combat in The Last of Us, the main story, you're gonna like it here. It takes the same great accessible combat from the main story and applies it to No Return. Each combat encounter is a little different each time, but the game gives you all the information you need to complete each run. There are a few things that I wish you could do, such as in between each wave of enemies, a cache box of supplies spawns near you, but there is a 20-second timer that counts down before new enemies spawn. I find that 20 seconds is always a little too fast for me before I can find the cache box, so I wish you could adjust the timing of that. The box always spawns near your position, but if it's up a level or through several rooms, it could take some time to get to it before the timer runs out. They don't disappear, so you can keep hunting even if new enemies spawn in, but it might just be a little bit more difficult if enemies are already looking for you and you're trying to be able to find the cache to be able to get extra supplies. You can technically adjust the timing if you are making a custom run, but you can't in the standard runs. Also, the difficulty modes also affect your final score after each run, as the higher your difficulty, the higher your points modifier gets. So suppose your disability prevents you from playing at a higher difficulty. In that case, you won't get as many points, which could limit your competitiveness against friends and other players if that interests you. To keep the mode challenging and fair, I understand Naughty Dog's reasoning behind this, but it does keep disabled players from getting to play the full experience if they can't play at the higher difficulty levels. The good thing is that the game doesn't limit the accessibility you want to use in the mode. There is no option that is disabled or omitted from playing No Return. So if you want to take on the additional difficulties with all the accessibility you love, you can totally do that. This is honestly great because you aren't punished for using accessibility while playing No Return. I had a blast playing this, and honestly, I'll keep returning to it even after this review, just to get better runs and better scores as I keep going and unlocking more cool stuff. Overall, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is still amazing to play. It runs beautifully and looks great on a PS5. And the new additional play modes you can jump into truly make this a great upgrade for 10 bucks or buy for the first time on your PS5. It truly is the definitive accessible experience remastered. I give The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for accessibility a 5 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button to avoid missing any new videos. Plus, also, if you would like to support my work, go to patreon.com/Steve Saylor for more additional fun content. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, I remain obediently yours. Bye-bye.